Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another video. So we're going to be looking at the new abilities. I've been actually looking for people for the last couple of, for an hour or two, to try and showcase these abilities. Looks like a lot of people just don't have the masteries in some of these weapons. Like bow, for example, it's one that not many people actually have 70 mastery in. But what I'm going to be doing is going through the abilities, talking through the number part of it. Obviously the numbers can change, this is still test server, things can change. However, we're getting quite close to the release date of Joseph, so we're going to get into it, go through each ability, talk through if the abilities are going to be used, what they're like, what they're built for, things like that. So first is actually bows. Ray of Light is the ability, 10-second cooldown, 10 energy cost, 15 meter range. Now, I believe T6 it is, T5... Okay, so it's T5 is actually the earliest you can use this, and at 900 item power it would offer you a 5-second route with a 419 single target hit. So it's like a royal barrel in terms of like a target, you drop it down, and it's, so from what I've seen of it, it's extremely hard to hit. However, like I said, it hits, I mean, you can see the numbers. 900 item power, I have no mastery in bows at all. 419 magic damage, that is massive amount of damage. Realistically, that does a ton of damage. 10-second cooldown. Obviously, bows are in a bit of a weird spot. I think, actually, this could be Whispering Bow, make really strong. You can potentially Ray of Light someone and then sit back kiting them with Whispering Bow, and you can kind of kite them all day long. It's only a 10-second cooldown. You can potentially keep kiting them with that in terms of a GVG. I mean, we only really see, so looking at Lucky Luke, obviously he's the main sort of Whispering Bow guy in Albion. He's the one that everyone knows of. I believe he actually uses Frost Shot. If he ever gets caught out, he just Frost Shots out of the situation. Pretty smart move, and it seems to be working for him. Other than that, we see a lot of people running Explosive Arrows just for the increased damage on auto attacks. Now, 5 auto attacks hitting for 70 each is 350 damage. This actually hits for 419 with the addition of a root and lower cooldown, and actually higher range, about the same sort of range. So realistically, if you can hit them consistently, this might actually be a good option. I'm going to have a look at tier 8, so that's like an 220 item power change, 500 magic damage, which is, I mean, less than 100 really increase, or it is less than 100 actually, and rooting them for an extra second or so. So in terms of the root and the damage, it doesn't look like it's going to scale particularly much higher. Obviously, the auto attacks give an extra 14 per auto attack, giving, quick off my head math, 28, 56, 72 damage total, as opposed to the 300 to 372. Sorry, 424, as opposed to 509. So realistically, Explosive Arrows, a little bit of AoE as well. In terms of utility, Ray of Light's probably going to still be better. If you can land them consistently still, that's going to be a hard thing to be able to do. But ultimately, in terms of ganking, they have a lot of tools. They've got Speed Shot, they've got obviously Ray of Light. If you hit that and root someone with a war bow, and you're going to be able to gank them really easily, it could bring bows back into sort of the gank meta. They've never really gone warbow, still been viable for ganking, but with obviously the recent changes we've had to ganking and obviously mounting and stuff like that, bow kind of fell out, and lockdown CC weapons kind of became the thing to do. So maybe we'll start seeing warbow come in with Ray of Light. Could happen. So overall, like this ability, I think it should have some play with bows. Obviously, bows are still in a little bit of a weird spot. Hopefully, Deadly Shot might bring them out of that a little bit more, give them a lot more single target focus damage, but we'll have to see what happens. Moving on then, Grudge. Now, I've done a little bit of testing with this. You unlock this ability at 40 mastery, so not particularly high actually. And so the Grudge can be cast on any ally and lasts for 6 seconds. While it is active, every normal attack they make inflicts a vile curse on the enemy. Now, this acts as a buff from the Curse Staff, so it's based on the Curse Staff's armor, is how the tests that I've done personally have sort of worked out at the moment. Which means if I was a Curse Staff with 8 stacks of Obsessive Burst from the Druid Robe, and I put this on someone else, that buff is going to be based on my damage. So it actually means they're going to apply it at a really high damage rate. This can potentially be paired with something like a Whispering Bow. You're going to hit super hard, applying them Vile Curse stats from miles away. Potentially that's going to be some synergy we have. I don't know. There's loads of different options. Realistically, looking at the different options in the row, Desecrate never really saw work. It's just not a very good ability. It kind of needs to be reworked into something else, I think. Curse Beam does a lot of single target damage, but normally gets interrupted or ignored or run out of, something like that. And then Armor Pierce has kind of been the go-to. Now, looking at Armor Pierce, great Curse Staff, tier 8, only 43 magic resist now. That's actual armor magic resist. It's actually quite low considering what it was once. Maybe we can see Grudge come in as a replacement. Obviously it has just under like about a 40% uptime on Grudge if you use it on cooldown, and obviously 8 meter range to cast it on an ally, but they can just run wherever with it then, as long as it's within them 6 seconds. So maybe we'll start to see it. It could be interesting that you can still spread dots out quite rapidly. Maybe we'll see something like a cooldown build with this, running leather, like assassin jacket, assassin boot, some kind of helmet, maybe a hunter helmet for the retaliate next patch. Obviously retaliate's gonna be super strong. Break the cooldown up a bit with an omelette. You can kind of get that cooldown down to like 10-11 seconds. Maybe that's going to be something we'll see come in, where you can just kind of have Vile Curses out on everything. Great Curse Staff with Demonic being nerfed coming into the meta, meaning you're going to be able to apply them in AoE. Maybe it's just going to be a case that Curse Staffs are going to be able to put out a ton of damage with this. So definitely an interesting ability. I do like this ability. We'll see what comes of it. Daggers, Shadow Edge. This is the one I was disappointed about. So 70 mastery to get, which, okay, is what it is. I believe T5 is the earliest you can actually equip it, obviously with 70 mastery still. So throw a knife in front of you, pulling you behind the first enemy, first target you hit. So it is a skill shot, is the first thing. If the target is an enemy, the enemy will be rooted for 3.41 seconds, and you obviously get pulled to them. 3.41 seconds is almost no time at all. 20 second, 41 energy cost, 22 meters, so it's a really, really long range. You can sort of huge engage with this, with how Black Hands are going to be. I've also had to look at Devastating Strike. I was kind of a bit concerned with Devastating Strike, but not really relevant to this video. I don't think these are going to be viable next patch at all. People kind of and ahhing with these Purge. It's just not going to be viable. But yeah, Shadow's Edge. It does no damage. Realistically, you could use Infiltration. Does a similar job with a bit of delay on a lower cooldown. You can kind of pull yourself in and sleep anyone in the area. Does a little bit of damage as well. Dash, 10-second cooldown, so half the cooldown. But realistically, you can guarantee where you want to go. If Shadow Edge gets blocked by somebody, maybe that won't work. I don't know. Shadow Edge, I haven't managed to test the interaction with like Assassin Boots. If you can dodge roll it, something like that. Maybe you can roll through it and they just get pulled to you and you don't get rooted. I don't know, but realistically, it's an okay ganking tool. For something like Claws, this is going to be mental. Just have a look at like tier 8 for the scaling of it. It doesn't scale at all really with item power. I have actually quite a lot of mastery, 36 mastery bonus, so if we look at that one, 62, 34, so let's have a look at this one. It just doesn't scale at all. Like, that's gone at 0.01 second. So, I mean, Claws, maybe they can start doing some like pull in, sunder, disembowel. With the way mounts are now, you can probably make something happen with that. I think it's definitely more of a ganking tool, and I mean that's kind of where the dagger tree's going at the moment. But even Bloodletter is viable in Hellgate, even GVGs, I would say. I would never use Shadow Edge in that. I just don't think that's what it's built for. In terms of other things, like even Throwing Blades or Forbidden Stab is always going to be used over Shadow Edge for like 5v5 content. In terms of ganking, pretty decent, but still a very, very short duration route for the time of it. So I can't really see it coming into meta too much, or being used too much. Other than that, sorry, just having a look at the new things. Spears. Got to find the spears. Deflecting spin. So, again, I believe T5. Don't know if you... Oh, you can get it on T4 as well. That's impressive. Spin your weapon as a shield for up to 4 seconds while channeling. Your resistances are increased by 151 and you reflect 80% of incoming damage. Additionally restores 5 energy every wrong tag. I believe that's 5 energy every second or something like that. You do get a fair bit of energy out of it. Or every half second maybe, because I think you actually get 8 ticks of it. Now, resistances as well as reflect kind of counter each other. You're going to take less damage while reflecting damage. You kind of want to take damage if you're going to reflect it out. This is a way to completely just eliminate damage you take. However, Forester Spear is still going to be doing quite a lot of damage. Even Cripple does a big amount of single target damage and has the slow with it and things like that. And obviously can purge off move speed from the enemy team. I think both of them are more viable than Deflecting Spin. I don't really see a situation where this is going to be useful, truthfully. It's very, very sort of aesthetic. You're going to see it being used. You're not really going to be able to sort of be like, oh, I accidentally threw all of my spells into him doing this. It's just not going to happen. You're going to know you're doing it, and you're just not going to be doing it. You're going to cancel them spells. You can get quite high uptime on this. Obviously, typically, Glaive running leather, you can probably get this down to like 8-second cooldown quite easily, which means you get a 50% uptime. But again, while you're channeling this, it is a channeled ability. You're not doing any damage, which kind of defeats the point of what this Glaive bruisery sort of thing we're in at the moment is. So personally, not a big fan of this. I don't think it's going to get used ever. Again, we'll have to see what happens with it. So swords. Swords are a weird one. Swords have been changed a little bit, actually. So first things first, they got a new passive when I can find it. Did they get a new passive? They definitely got a new passive. There we go. Weakening. What level was that? Okay, so 6. So it's a really early one, actually. Every normal attack reduces the target's damage and heal power by 4% for 1 second. Actually, in a meta where healers are really going to struggle to be healing through stuff anyway, and whatever, I think swords with this, bear in mind, on every single normal attack, this is going to be massive, actually. You're going to reduce so much healing with this that actually I think swords could become very... I mean, they're already kind of in the meta. I think Clarent, with how strong Clarent is anyway, could come into the meta and be really, really potent. I believe it's 4 seconds at all levels. I don't think that actually changes. 4% at all levels, it is. But still, I think this is actually going to be really good for swords. I think this could make them really strong. 4% doesn't sound like much. But if in 10 heals, that's 40% of that total healing that's actually been reduced. That's ridiculous. That's a crazy amount of numbers that's actually been reduced. And in terms of damage, even if you're just hitting a bruiser, it still means you're reducing their damage, which is going to be helpful for your team. So I do like this passive. I think this is going to become just the basic passive for sword users. Obviously, they do get the other ability, level 40 ability, Splitting Slash. I believe it comes in at tier 4. So looking at tier 4 just straight off, 411 damage and rooted for 3.77 seconds. Damage can't be reflected. Kind of a little bit irrelevant, I think, but whatever. So 14 meter range. So this is a huge range. So 14 meter range, 15-second cooldown, 37 energy cost. So it's big energy cost. Cooldowns, it's not too bad, and the range is actually huge. The damage on it at tier 4 base is actually massive. Oh, okay, so T5 actually comes in because it's T4 artifacts. But there we go. Okay, so Dual Swords, 377 damage. Does a lot of damage. We look at Interrupt doing 216, Hamstring doing 168. This does a huge amount of damage. Bear in mind, it's also AoE. It can hit multiple people with this because obviously anyone in that line. I have to say the one thing that people have been telling me about Splitting Slash, it's really, really easy to predict. Hard to sort of land on multiple people. I imagine in a 5v5 situation you might be able to land it a couple of times, and something like Dual Swords, build stacks on the front line, split and slash their whole team, jump into their back line. That wombo combo is definitely there, but realistically, is it going to be something I see coming in? Maybe. I think Iron Will's just too strong for Bruiser Clarence. They play very, very aggressive. They use this extra defensive very, very well, and I think they're going to be lost without it. Interrupt, sometimes you just have to swap to Interrupt. It's too mandatory of a thing. and you kind of don't want splitting slash to be mandatory if you're having to use interrupt sometimes. In terms of the scaling on the damage, 526 goes up about 150 odd. Yeah, about 120 maybe. It goes up a fair bit. The root goes up by about a second. So the root time isn't actually very long. Plates are going to get out of it in like a second. Clothies are going to be in it for like 2 or 3 seconds. Leather somewhere in between. And like I said, the damage is super high on it, but it's super easy to predict and get out of the way with. It doesn't have like a direct telegraph. However, the animation is the swords go up in the air. No other ability really does that, so it's quite easy to predict it's happening. It does have like a hidden cast time. So realistically, it may come in. Again, I can see Clarence being able to use this into Stalker, into Mighty Swing. That's a wombo combo that's going to break teams. That's going to do so much damage. Maybe we'll start seeing people pull it off, but at the moment, I'm still a bit skeptical about the skill. And I believe that's actually it. So yeah, this is all the new skills. I'm going to be doing a couple more videos yet still on the Joseph patch. Tell me if there's any skills you're looking forward to, if there's any you've tested and what you sort of think of them. Yeah, but I'm keen to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, guys, and catch you later. Goodbye.